Welcome to the webinar, everyone. Another Wednesday, another opportunity to learn some things that can help not only yourself, but also the people that you care about, the people that you love, and the people that you would like to share this information with. You know, we're here every Wednesday, or we try to be every Wednesday, trying to help people make informed choices. And today is one of those events. We are going to talk about how to read a food label. You would think that this would be simple, but the reality is it's anything but. There's a lot of things in the label that, quite frankly, very well seem to be designed to be confusing. I know that we are working diligently on getting to a new labeling system to make that a little bit easier, but as you're going to see, until we get there next year in the summer of 2018, it's still a little confusing out there for the normal person. So let's kind of jump right in. You know, most people, anywhere from the parents to the teenagers to the kids, they don't understand what a food label is, how to read it, understand it, where to look for general information, what any of the information really means. And there's certain things in there, to be quite frank, are done by marketing teams that, you know, we just believe to be beneficial to us, but in reality have very little nutritional value. It starts out with this. Have you ever noticed that in the United States we teach the empirical system? So we deal in inches, feet, yards, things of that nature, miles. But everywhere else in the world they teach the metric system. But for some reason, our food labels are all done in the metric system. So we are still a country that teaches empirical but labels our food in metric. And as a result, there's a lot of people that cannot, in their own head, do the conversions. In fact, if you looked at the world on the right, which is the metric system, and the United States on the left, which is the empirical system, you can see that the world seems to make a little bit more sense with regard to how easy it is to do the conversions. But, you know, at the end of the day, we live here, so we have to understand what it is our food is talking to us about. And when I say talking to us about, I'm talking about that label. So what we want to do is get away from this visual right here. We don't want to be turning around and trying to figure out or trying to remember what was said. So we have to go down to some basics. Well, the good news is the FDA has put out a guide that has provided some basic information for people to reference. It teaches people where to start. It shows people where to go next. It shows people what the nutrients are that should be limited if possible. It talks to them about daily values. It's talking about whether or not you're getting enough of certain nutrients. And of course, it also is talking about the footnotes that is all based upon the caloric intake, diet, calorie counts that people do on a daily basis. If you want that information or want a better resource, you can go to that website right there under FDA Guide, and it will provide you the information. Now, I will tell you, it doesn't necessarily make it much easier, but at least it provides you a guide, a start, if you want to share with somebody a way to start understanding what these guides are. Now, let's go into in depth with some issues, because you know, one of the things we like to do here at ID Life is we like to provide you kind of the gotchas in the industry, trying so that you can understand where people get confused. You can understand where people actually make mistakes. So let's start out with serving size. So, what do I mean by serving size? Well, in the 1950s, fast food meal, including a soda, hamburger, and French fries, looked like it did on the left. Today, it looks like it does on the right. That's right. So the average French fries, when it started in the 50s, when fast food was kind of a new thing, were 2.4 ounces, and now they're 6.7. The burger was 3.9 ounces, and now it's a 12-ounce burger. And the sodas were 7 ounces, and now they're 42. You can tell why our society is starting to get larger, simply by the growth of the fast food industry. One of the things that the FDA is going to do, though, coming out in the summer of 2018, is include a brand new food label. And this is kind of their guide right here, the side-by-side comparison of the old versus the new. And you'll notice some real distinct changes. It starts out with like the serving size. If you look at the servings per container on the left, it says 8. Well, it's a little hard to see, a little hard to read. The one on the right, you can see it. It's right there, 8 servings per container. It's easy. The calories obviously pop off the page on the right-hand side. But one of the biggest changes that is not being talked about very much and people aren't necessarily even paying attention to is if you see that thing highlighted on the right hand side, it's something called added sugars. What's interesting is if you look at the left hand column, that's the old or the original label, you will see sugars were listed as 1 gram. So if you were out there and you were diabetic or you were trying to watch your sugar intake and you're trying to limit those things, you would grab this food label, turn it around, look for the sugars and see 1 gram and think that, oh, okay, well this is a good thing. This is only 1/4 of one serving. So this is the perfect food for me. Because you don't understand or appreciate how to read the other ingredients or the additional ingredients or the other things that's on the other part of the label. The new label, though, is going to require companies for the first time to include something called added sugars. These are products, high fructose corn syrup, fructose, things of that nature, that are hidden sugars. Right now are not on the label. And in fact, this is the same exact product left and right, and you notice the sugars on the right go to 12. So that's right, something that you thought was simply 1/4 of one serving was in fact 3 full servings of sugar. They were just hidden in other portions of the label. So one of the things you need to watch out for right now is understanding what these added sugars are, the fact that they're not on the labels, but the good news is they are coming in July of 2018. So there's going to be a lot of foods out there that you may have thought were good for you that you're going to find out for the first time why there's so much sugar in it and why you very well may be addicted to it or like it so much. The other thing that's going to happen is our serving sizes are going to change. Now, this one is not as beneficial, I'll be perfectly frank, because the whole idea behind it is it has to realistically reflect how much people eat or consume. So, in other words, a bottle, a 12 ounce or a 20 ounce, is going to be a serving. No longer can companies have a 20-ounce bottle that's 1.5 servings or 2 servings or 2.5 servings or whatever the case may be. But there's some things out there that are not necessarily realistic, as they say, because if you look on here, a pint of ice cream, that's one of those little containers going from 4 servings to 3 servings. Really, I mean, it says it's got to be realistic, but I will warn you that even the realistic isn't necessarily the way that people consume things, because I can tell you most people, when they grab one of these things right here, that's a single set and serve. I mean, that is one of those things where you're going to eat it just the way this lady right here is eating it, feet propped up, front of the television, eating your ice cream. What's interesting about this, though, is if you look at it, they say that there's 3.5 servings per container. See, you look at the fat content, the calorie content, you're not really thinking much, but when you really look at it, if you ate the whole container, you're looking at 980 calories, 63 grams of fat, 77 grams of sugar. Divide that by 4 and you have the number of servings. Yeah, let me let that set in. Divide that by 4 and you have the number of servings. It is over 19 servings. Okay, just so you know, women should have 6, men should have 9 on a daily basis. That's 19. That's more than 3.5 days of sugar intake in that one ice cream. It's insane. So let's look at calories. This is the place where a lot of people go. And this may be the only thing a lot of people look at because it's the one thing that they think that they can trust, they can rely on, and they turn it around. Well, I just showed you how if you don't pay attention to the serving size, the calories can actually catch you because it wasn't 280 calories. It was, in fact, over 900, almost 1,000. So it's based upon a percentage daily value. Well, that percentage daily value is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So if you have less than a 2,000 calorie diet, guess what? That percentage is going to go up. If you have a more than 2,000 calorie diet, that percentage is going to go down. So if you're paying attention to the daily value percentages, you need to know what your daily diet intake looks like. Because if you're more than or less than 2,000, then those numbers change for you. What is a calorie? Well, a lot of people think it's this, the tiny little creatures that live in your closet, so your clothes a little bit tighter every night. The reality is, calories is energy. It's what it takes to burn that off. But not all calories are created equal. And this is why when people are trying to do calorie restriction or all they're doing is counting calories, it doesn't necessarily work. We need to understand the value of the calorie. On the right-hand side, there's 200 calories, which is basically a half a donut. On the left-hand side is 200 calories, more spinach than a human being could sit down in one serving and eat, at least comfortably. It's the value of the calorie or the caloric density that we want to look at. And we need to understand that, a calorie is not a calorie. Every time somebody says that, it just drives me crazy because when you put the calories in your body, if all you're doing is counting calories and it doesn't matter what you consume, then the nutritional value of what you're consuming isn't taken into consideration. And the nutritional value will determine your health. So pay attention to that. I mean, in fact, here's a visual that kind of pays homage to that. Here's two people that, if you're eating the apple and taking care of your body, it's the well-oiled machine. If you're eating the fast food and things of that nature, it's a little bit rusty, a little bit out of shape, and needs a heck of a lot more work and maintenance. What we eat does make a difference, and calories alone is not going to get us there. Let's talk about fats for a second. This is kind of the craze in the U.S., and we'll talk about why. One of the things we need to understand here is, if you look at this label and you're focused on the fats, you see 80 calories and you see total fats 4.5 grams. Most people don't even know what that means, to be perfectly frank, as well as the saturated fats and trans fats. What you miss, though, when you're focused on that one thing is this. The serving size is 5 crackers. That's 5 crackers. I have never really met anyone that will sit there and say, okay, I'm only going to have the 5 crackers because that's the 80 calories, because that's my 4.5 grams of fat. You have to be very conscious, if you're going to focus on one aspect of a label, of understanding how serving size and servings per container and things of those nature affect the numbers that you're looking at. See, all of this fat craze in the U.S., the fat-free stuff, the reduced fat, and all these things, all happened because of President Eisenhower's heart attack. And most people don't even know that. See, because of that heart attack, we had this fight in the U.S. The fight was between Ancel Keys and John Yudkin. Keys had argued that fat in our diet is what was causing heart disease and led to the president's heart attack. Yudkin basically came out and published a book that basically said, no, it's not the fat, it's actually sugar, and that we should limit sugar in our diets because sugar is the leading cause of heart disease. Well, Yudkin was ostracized, almost bankrupt. It was crazy how vilified he was in the medical community. And Ancel Keys won a Nobel Prize and was on the cover of Time and everything else because of fat. Well, we now know, based upon everything that's happened, that Yudkin was actually right, and that sugar is our biggest enemy. But the good news is you need to understand not all fats are bad. There is a difference between good fats and bad fats, just like there's a good difference between good carbohydrates and not so good carbohydrates. The difference between complex and simple. And we've done other presentations on that. So if you want to circle back to some of those and learn about carbohydrates, I would encourage you to do so. But what we need to do is limit the bad fats, but the good fats do need to be part of our diet, because remember, fats are what feeds our brain. So if you are in a mental fog, have a hard time concentrating, it very well may be that you're missing some good fats in your diet. Sodium. This is one of the other things other than sugar that we consume way too much of in this country. And the reason why is because when we went into this fat-free phase of diets and diet foods and all these things, when they're taking the fat out and they're taking other ingredients out to basically try to reduce the calories and add other artificial ingredients, the two things that seem to be added the most are sugars and salts. And of course, sodium is in fact salt. Here is what we need. On a daily basis, we need about 180 milligrams. Recommended for adults is 1,500 on the upper end, is 2,300. Our daily consumption in the U.S. is more than 3,400 milligrams of salt. It's a direct link to heart disease and a lot of other issues that we have, but that's where we are because we eat so much processed and fast foods that are just covered in salt for all kinds of different reasons, not only as a preservative, but also because of the taste factor. Simple thing to remember about salt, eat less of it. And remember this, if you just try to cut out the salt shaker, you've only eliminated 11% of the salt in your diet. Let me rephrase that. If all you do is take away the salt shaker, all you have done is eliminated 11% of the salt that you normally take away from your diet. 89% of the salt that you ingest on a daily basis comes from the foods that you're consuming, not the salt that you add to the food. So just know that you need to understand the sodium that's in the food that you're consuming on a daily basis. Sugars. We've done countless presentations on sugars. I mean, this is in by far the leading cause of the obesity epidemic that we have in this country. 74% of our population overweight, 33% of our children, and the numbers are growing. I mean, diabetes through the roof, heart disease at an unprecedented level. It's killing people every day. Here is a prime example of what we got going on. This one thing right here, 12 ounce, and if you can even find a 12 ounce Coke anymore, but 12 ounce is 140 calories, 39 grams of sugar. That's 9.75 servings. The American Heart Association recommends for men 9 servings, women 6. If you have one 12-ounce can of Coke, you have exceeded your daily allotment for sugar, and that's not counting what you had for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or any of the drinks that you may have had in between. I mean, we are literally drinking ourselves to death with this white powder. I mean, the sugar is what's going to get us, and we need to make sure that we understand that when we're trying to look at the labels. The other thing that we need to remember is this. Come 2018, there's going to be this brand new thing called added sugars. That added sugars number is going to change the game completely because there's going to be a lot of things that you have been consuming that you're going to believe were low in sugar that in fact are super high in sugar. In fact, ID Life has made the commitment to convert all of its labels to the 2018 label immediately because we view it as a positive thing because of our commitment to this particular issue. I hope this has been helpful. The whole idea behind these Lunch and Learns is to equip you with the information of understanding that you can't just look at one thing when you're talking about a label, or to equip you with the informed information so that you can make informed choices. But the main thing that we're trying to get across here is there's this relationship of health. Healthy living isn't just diet. It isn't just lifestyle. Healthy living is a combination of diet, lifestyle, and nutrition. And we need to understand and appreciate that our diet and lifestyle decisions will create nutritional gaps. If we make better choices in our diet and lifestyle, our nutritional gap is less. And we have to supplement on a less basis. But if we are making poor choices, or if the people we care about or love or we're trying to help are making poor choices in diet and or lifestyle, those nutritional gaps are going to be greater, and they need to understand what they are, and they understand how to fill them so that they can truly live a healthy lifestyle. If you want to learn more about ID Life and what we have going on here and why we do the things that we do, I encourage you to plug in on Monday nights at 8:30 Central Time. We always have a great event on Monday nights right here on Facebook Live, teaching people all about the things that ID Life is all about, the things that we believe in, and most importantly, equipping people with the information that they need so that they can make informed choices in their lives and the lives of the people that they care about and love. If you want to see people just like yourself that have gotten amazing results by following these simple to follow steps, go to myidlifestory.com and read their stories. I mean, the transformations are unbelievable. And the best part is these are folks that did not focus on the 40 inches around their waist. They focused on the 6 inches between their ears. They changed their behavior to change their life permanently. This isn't a quick fix thing. This is something where we're equipping people with the information to make informed choices generationally and to help their kids, their families, and the people that they care about. Next week, we are going to do a presentation on kids' vitamins. This weekend, we're actually going to be in Las Vegas at Live It Up, a big event that we have there, and we're going to be announcing some things there. And what we're going to be announcing there and the presentations that are going to take place there on these Wednesday Lunch and Learns, you're going to start seeing some a little bit differences. You're going to see some direct comparisons. You're going to see some identification of the problem, the solution, and why ID Life does what it does. And next week, we're going to start out with our most valuable resource that we have, and that's our children. I never met a parent that didn't think that their children were the most valuable resource that they had and the most valuable thing that they had in their life. And next week we're going to start right there. We're going to start talking about kids. We're going to talk about kids' vitamins, and we're going to talk about how to get our kids the nutrition that they need. So, on behalf of ID Life, this is Mark Bennett. I encourage you to plug in next week, and until next time, I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks.